I'd like to welcome everybody to the Homes from Waste Symposium and the Sustainable Homes Challenge pitch presentation. The Sustainable Homes Challenge has been powered by the University Sustainable Buildings Research Centre, this wonderful building that you see behind me in Zoom. It aims to bring together university students from around Australia and from a wide range of disciplines and backgrounds to develop innovative solutions to the problem of providing sustainable, healthy and affordable homes. We gratefully acknowledge the sponsorship that we've had from the McKinnon Walker Trust, the Housing Trust, Engineers Australia, BlueScope, and the Office of the Chief Scientist and Engineer. Without these sponsors, and particular shout out to the McKinnon Walker Trust, this challenge could not have happened. And the events that we've had this week have been a virtual bonanza and extravaganza run by Leela, where the students have been working flat out to finalize their designs. So I'm very grateful to welcome you all to this. Before we begin, I want to talk, first of all, give an acknowledgement of country. And this week we saw the passing of the greatest actor ever in Australia. We know him on screen as David Gulpilil. Rigi Mariril Dalathingu is his real name, but his family have given us permission to call him Gulpilil from now on, and to acknowledge his contribution to Australian culture. And I have a great affinity to Gulpilil because he introduced me to Aboriginal culture and that strong tie that Aboriginals have to the land. And that was through films like Walkabout and particularly Charlie's Country. And it was very poignant to watch his biopic that he made this year while he was going through the final stages of cancer. The lands on which I'm sitting on are Darawal lands of the Yuin people, and this is a country that's been occupied for tens of thousands of years by the original custodians. And European settlers are Johnny come lately to this place, and we acknowledge that we are guests in this land. The Sustainable Homes Challenge is a nice link with our Aboriginal custodians of the land, because we are seeking to develop that custodianship in all of our students and in future generations. So I acknowledge the elders past and present and those of the future, and acknowledge that the effect of colonization on the Aboriginal community has been devastating. I'll give you a fact about what the world is doing to itself. Globally, we humans are expected to generate 2.2 billion tons of waste by 2025. The amount of plastic that was produced in the last 12 months exceeds the mass of the human population. We are generating huge amounts of materials, and we're generating huge amounts of waste. What I'd like to do now, on that happy note, I'd like to introduce our Vice Chancellor, Trish Davison, and ask her to provide a short welcome to our teams, our judges, and others who are attending this event today.
Well, thanks so much, Tim. And I loved your acknowledgement of country and your inspiration. I would also like to take a moment to pay my respects to Aboriginal elders past and present, and acknowledge their continual spiritual and cultural connection to the lands on which the University of Wollongong is situated. And there's something truly inspirational about this initiative, because it really speaks to land and speaks to country. Welcome to students, judges, friends and colleagues. This is a very exciting event. Like Tim, I would also like to acknowledge the generous support of the McKinnon Walker Trust, established by the former Vice-Chancellor Ken McKinnon, who was the second VC of the University of Wollongong from 1981 to 1994. And the aim of the McKinnon Walker Trust is to support the green sprouts of new ideas and foster a culture of innovation through the allocation of funds to academic, professional, and students and staff for innovative programs, activities, and ideas. And it's within this framework that the Sustainable Homes Challenge was conceived. I also want to acknowledge the partnership with other community organisations, in particularly the Housing Trust, Engineers Australia, and BlueScope. This is very exciting. And if you can indulge me just on a moment of vision, last night was, we had a farewell for Dr. Liz McGassie, who was stepping down from council after 12 years. And I've heard a lot that the vision for our beautiful grounds came from Ken McKinnon. And so last night we were standing in building 39, just looking across to the beautiful Flugelman sculpture. But what was so much more inspirational to me was the juxtaposition of the Illawarra flame and the jacaranda amongst this amazing bushland. So just as this inspiration for this initiative has come from the McKinnon Walker Trust, it's just a really good example that you need vision, you need to be courageous, and you really need to be able to push boundaries to make a difference. And so I went home last night after what was a beautiful event and thought, you know, what if in days gone by that people had said to Ken McKinnon, look, you're stupid spending all this money on landscaping and gardening, and how much poorer we would be in our community. I think this initiative, in particular, making homes from waste, is just such a critical issue. We know the biggest challenges facing our planet are climate and sustainability. Today also at council, we had a presentation from students who presented to the COI 26, the forerunner of COP26. And I was motivated and inspired, but these students had really pushed the university to do things that we really should have been doing for a long time. And my thanks to Tim McCarthy, who is now working with the students in the committee to move us forward on an important sustainability agenda. My congratulations to all of the students on their achievements so far and the work you've done in developing designs for a challenging problem. Whenever I'm around our students, I'm inspired and motivated, and I feel confident about the future. I can't tell you how proud I was of our students presenting today at council. I just felt like a very proud mother hen. And I'm looking forward to hearing some of the pictures today. People often think of design as graphics or how something looks, but product and design and infrastructure design, that is the design of how things work, is key to helping shape a better and more sustainable future for all of us. The COP26 summit in Glasgow, although many of us were disappointed, it has really fueled the motivation and inspiration to move forward. And as I mentioned, I'm incredibly proud of our students who have held a mirror up to old people like me and really sounded the warning sign and not just prompted us to do things better, but working with us to do things better. So I feel that our future is in good hands. Best of luck to all of you. Thank you so much to all of the organisers. And again, a special thanks to our sponsors. Philanthropy matters, sponsorship matters, but more importantly, these links forged with industry are really inspirational. So I'm looking forward to hearing some of these pictures. So thanks so much, Tim.
Thank you very much, Trish, for that. And I echo the hope for the future when I see the work of our students in this challenge, as well as the students who presented to you at council. I'd like to welcome Michelle Adair, and say just a little bit about Michelle. Michelle has been a strong supporter of the Sustainable Homes Challenge, from day one. And working with the Housing Trust, we have provided the students with the Housing Trust house designs, which were the inspiration for the students' own houses. And I think everybody in the Illawarra knows Michelle, and she's the CEO of the largest community housing provider, the Housing Trust. She's also chair of the peak body, the Community Housing Industry Association, member of the Illawarra Property Council Committee, and the number of charities she's involved with is endless. I'm going to give a fun fact about her. Not only is she does all of those things, but Michelle is an outstanding business leader, and she was awarded the Illawarra Outstanding Business Leader Award by the Business Chamber only very recently. So congratulations, Michelle. I'd like to invite you to share some of your wisdom with us and our students.
Thank you so much. And in also acknowledging the traditional landowners and the land on which we meet, it's always, I think, important to acknowledge within that context that custodianship and the right to place was never ceded by Aboriginal people. So this always was and always will be Aboriginal land, rivers and water systems. I couldn't be more excited about joining you this afternoon. When we first became aware of the challenge, we couldn't, as an organisation here at the Housing Trust, say, yes, quickly, let's get involved quickly enough. Our vision and our purpose at the Housing Trust, as I think many of you would know, having seen the briefing materials, is a decent home for everyone. It has never been more important, and regrettably, I hate to mention that word, but COVID perhaps has brought to even more sharp focus the criticality of what a safe, decent, affordable home means. As you know, so many people were forced to homeschool, as many people were forced into lockdown, the experience of isolation, the lack of daylight in many homes, the sudden reality that perhaps you didn't know your neighbours, not to mention, of course, the crisis in relation to escalating costs. So having a safe, secure, affordable home has never been more important. The need is through the roof. When we talk about affordable housing, it's actually a very different conversation because we're talking about affordable rental housing. And that is a specific product, if you like, a specific type of home that meets thresholds for income eligibility and the like. It's a very different conversation, and sadly still very skewed in Australia to talk about housing affordability, which is almost immediately wrapped up in the context of home ownership. And while that continues to be a wonderful and important aspiration, and appropriately so, the vast majority is, I'm afraid, reality is that for an increasing number of Australians, that will never be the case. If you are under the age of 45 in Australia today, and I imagine that that's most of the students involved in this challenge, certainly not all perhaps, but most, as well as many of the rest of the student cohort at the university. If you are under the age of 45, you have only a 50-50 chance of ever owning a home, and that will almost certainly rely on a direct contribution by your parents or other family members in the state. So the need for affordable rental housing has never been more important. Community housing providers like the Housing Trust don't just get concerned about making housing stock available. We are critically concerned about the lived experience of our tenants so that the homes are comfortable and livable without the additional burden and cost of things like air conditioners and dryers and the like. We work very closely with our tenants to help them sustain their tenancies, so that when there are fluctuations, as indeed there are in all of our lives in relation to our income, that we can work with them to be able to keep their homes. And within that context, similarly, we are critically concerned about the footprint, about the materials in terms of their sourcing, as well as ultimately their life cycle, to ensure that we create in the short, medium and long term, and indeed for future generations, footprints and context and experiences of built form that continue to enhance, not diminish, this extraordinary environment and the communities within which we live. I can't wait to see your presentations this afternoon. I was blown away even by what was on the websites last night. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for so generously sharing and teaching me, and no doubt the rest of our judging panel. We all continue to learn your contributions, both in terms of your technical expertise, your educations, your knowledge, but also your passion. And please, your expectations that those of us that are in positions of leadership and authority pay attention to you and continue to hear your voices as we move forward in addressing these challenges. I can't wait for this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you for the continued support of the Housing Trust. What I'd like to do now is introduce our panel of judges before we then talk to the most important people of the afternoon, our student teams. So Michelle will be judging the overall prize for this. So thank you very much for the sponsorship of that prize, and also the continuous backup that you've given us throughout the project and being here today. Other people who are going to be judging, we've got Mark Eckerman from BlueScope Steel, and thank you so much to BlueScope Steel for sponsoring one of our prizes. Mark is a great friend of the SPRC and the University of Wollongong, and it has been spruiking our abilities, in the industry, and helping to lead sustainable developments within the steel industry and the construction industry as a whole. He leads a technical team focused on long-term breakthrough innovation, operating across a wide range of science and technology fields, from fundamental steel making and metallurgy to building physics and performance. He's a Wollongong graduate, and a fun fact about Mark is that he is a mono-wheel rider. So thank you, Mark, for being here today as a judge. Our second Mark is Mark Jones. Mark Jones is Executive Director at Edmondson Jones, one of the top architectural studio in Wollongong. And Mark has been a close friend of the Sustainable Buildings Research Centre, and he's even been to a solar decathlon with us. So he's an honorary fellow at the university as well. And the projects that Mark leads go from homes, community buildings, church complexes, health centres, and so forth. And his thumbprint, or his footprint across the Illawarra and the South Coast throughout the work of his studio is evidence all around us. I'll give you a fun fact about Mark. Mark Jones is a music impresario in his spare time, and is known to put on a pretty mean concert and organize visiting troubadours to entertain the people in the Alawa. Ben Nicol, you're representing Mirvac, and I don't know too much about you because we haven't met, but I've gleaned a few things from the internet, and you've been involved in some pretty interesting projects, particularly in the sustainability side of things. The Synergy project, and I think the Mirvac affordability experiment, these are things that really resonate with what we're trying to do today and what Michelle has just talked about. And I know that you're very keen to produce homes that are that produce their own energy, so net zero energy homes and so forth. The fun fact that I've gleaned about you, Ben, is that you're a bit of a rugby tragic. Sadly, the Wallabies haven't been doing so well lately, but maybe they'll come back. Being a Northern Hemisphere rugby tragic myself, I'm quite pleased with the Autumn Nations. Things Ireland beating New Zealand was probably the best moment. Our other judge that we've got on screen here is Senior Professor Paul Cooper. Now, Paul held the seat that I'm in, and I'm actually sitting in Paul's seat. He was the original founding director of the Sustainable Buildings Research Centre and has had a 35-year career at the University of Wollongong, and has been a leader in sustainable buildings, not only in the university, but in the world. And Paul has a global reputation. So we're indebted to Paul for providing us with this fantastic building that I'm speaking from today, but also setting up an organization that has a sound ethic in its DNA, and that is seeking to improve what's happening in the built environment in the world. Fun fact about Paul is that he is a professional music player, or has been. He's a very keen keyboard player, excellent pianist, so-so singer, but has actually played circuits in Europe and Switzerland, as well as playing piano in a jazz group in Wollongong. So thank you to the judges. You'll be called upon to do the hard work later on to differentiate between the excellent work of all our students. And we're really proud of what the students have done, because originally the idea of this project was that we would have this finale week as an on-campus hackathon, where the students would get together from across Australia and develop or finalize their designs. The challenge that they've been through is enormous, and we even have students who've been personally impacted by COVID-19 in our group, and we salute them that they've stuck with it, and they have worked really as extracurricular activities throughout the year, when so many times they could have just said, this is too much, there's too much happening, I want to just get my grades, sort out my studies, and so forth. But all of these people, these are people who have resilience, they have stamina. You'll see from their presentation that they have enormous creativity. So and when I see things like this, or when I meet some of the high school students, or I meet the students who presented at COIT 16, I think the future is bright. We've stuffed up the planet a bit, my generation, but I think the people who are coming after us, they know how to not continue that situation, and I think they know how to fix it. So on that note, I think it's time to talk to our students and let them talk to us. So the teams have interesting names, and I hope they'll explain those. Team A, or Team 1, is known by Element 0, and their house is the new seed home. So I'll invite Element 0 to present their pitch.
Hi, I'm part of Element 0. I'm Jack. I'm just going to introduce us, and as we move on to our pitch. Will I be sharing my screen for the pitch, or will it be running through someone else?
I'll share the videos.
All right. So we have, is everyone else here? Could we also just all introduce ourselves, or should I introduce all of us?
Play it how you want to play it.
Yeah, well, whoever's here, I'll introduce. Whoever's not, whoever's here can introduce themselves, and otherwise I'll introduce everyone else. So I'm Jack. I'm a mechatronic engineering student. I got involved in this project because I really wanted to just find other ways to apply my degree. I'm really passionate about trying to develop my understanding of sustainability. So I thought this was just a really good opportunity to do that.
Hi, I'm Valentina, and I'm studying a Bachelor of Architectural Engineering, the new degree. And yeah, I'm really excited to share our design with everyone.
I'll jump in. I am Laura. I am studying, I've just finished actually my master's at RMIT. I did my master's in energy efficient and sustainable buildings, and I'm very passionate about it. I was very excited to participate and do something to solve one of the biggest crises that we're facing now. And I'm very excited for you guys to see what we came up with.
Hi everyone, I'm Kira. I've just finished my honours in international studies, and for me international studies didn't seem to give me any solutions to a lot of the problems that we were learning about, so I kind of switched to architecture in terms of my focus, and I'm very interested in the concept of regenerative sustainability.
I'm not sure. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just gonna quickly introduce our other team member. That's Amir. He can't join us right now because he's traveling. He had to travel overseas on an last minute notice. So, well, he is Amir. He did innovation and entrepreneurship in the University of Wollongong. He has been supporting us, and you're gonna see him in the pitch. He was very excited to participate in the pitch. Some things happened. We couldn't arrange a lot of stuff, but yeah. Very, very happy to collaborate with him and the rest of the team.
Okay, let's see your pitch. Leila, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ami, and today we'll be running you through our design named the New Seed Home. Before I start with the introduction, I want you to imagine if you had to move to another country, how would you like your new home to look like? Can you imagine your new kitchen? What would your bedroom look like? Can you imagine your new bathroom? Don't we all want it to look as close as possible to what we're used to? And I'm saying this from my experience of immigrating from Iran to Australia. I remember at the time, everything was so different. The lifestyles were different, and so was my home. I can quite well remember the first time I went to the bathroom and I kept looking for a water hose because that's what I was used to. And once I couldn't find one, it took me a fair bit of time to get used to it. We've used this concept as the foundation for our home. The home that we're designing is designed for Era, a 35-year-old mother with her 2 under 12 years old children. One of them has autism, and the family are refugees from Afghanistan. Since they're moving into a new country, they're wishing that their new home would connect them to the community around them, create a sense of belonging, and also be a space for healing. They're hoping this will be their forever home and would grow with their family. The problem statement for our design is that a lack of biophilia in our homes has resulted in the perception that natural world is merely a resource deposit for human exploitation. And unfortunately, we are largely unwilling to change our behavior due to the misconception that sustainability is either too expensive or it would cost us in our quality of life. Factors that we've considered in our design philosophy are, first of all, biophilia, as we talked about. The more connection we have to the nature in our homes, the more considerate we will be towards using our material. Another factor will be cyclical thinking. So we believe that if we could redefine waste as a valuable resource, it would reduce our reliance on raw material, and that's essential for sustainability. Another factor would be site responsiveness. We believe that the home that we create would have a strong connection to the community, promoting a safer and happier neighborhood. Other factors include the home to be regenerative, and that would be characterized by themes of wholeness, relationality, and dynamicity. And finally, the last factor that we considered was for our home to be flexible. We want our home to be easily retrofitted or redesigned to be adaptable to many different occupants over its lifetime. Now, I will have my colleague, Laura, run you through the site information.
Now I'm gonna take you on a little journey when Era landed in Australia to start a new life. She landed at the Sydney airport on a brisky Sunday morning. Then she catch a train and travel about 80 kilometers to the south from the airport to her new home in Corrimal, New South Wales. And you might be wondering what she found when she finally got there. Well, I'm gonna give you a little disclaimer here. We actually did the maths for her. And what she found was a community with an important number of aging people and a lower income than the average in the state. Also, 18% of the population in Corrimal were single parents, and from that 18%, 83 were females, just like her. Well, now, what about the climate? Hot and humid summers, not very good for human comfort, but that gets a little bit better with the northeastern winds blowing on her face. At Era's place, the sun would wake her up every morning, entering from the windows from the east, and towards the evening, she could enjoy a refreshing drink, watching the sunset from her backyard on the west side of the house. Element Zero sat with her over a cup of coffee. We shared, we laughed, and we also empathized with her story. Some of us as immigrants too, we understood how it is to leave everything behind and start all over again. So we asked her one question. We said, would you feel more comfortable if you get to know your community? And of course her answer was yes. So we thought about this concept that has been running around for the last couple of years, and that is all about living locally, and that is the 20-minute neighborhood. The 20-minute neighborhood will allow her and the rest of the community to meet their needs of work, recreation, and education within only 20 minutes walk from their home. This will increase social interaction and help building significant connections with neighbors and also the community, aligning with our philosophy of local living. With all this information, we sat together, we discussed, and we came up with a design strategy that will address all the problems that we discussed before. My colleague Jack is going to walk you through what the solutions are.
Next, we move on to the design portion of the house. The design portion of the house is comprised of 6 main areas: the front facade, the main living area, the flexible downstairs room, dining and amenities, the backyard, and the second story. The front facade features our greenhouse and integrated water system. The greenhouse is our design's way of bringing the outdoors in, acting as a draw card for the home, promoting green living and thinking, as well as botanical cells for water reuse. The greenhouse also acts as an important privacy screen, which is so important for homes in a more compact layout. The increase of plants also promotes sustainability and health. These botanical cells feature a key component in our house's integrated water system, a homage to earthships to filter and repurpose water used by the household. Next, the main living area is comprised of natural building materials as a display of biophilia. The open plan and social-friendly room design encourages flexibility and promotes movement throughout the household. Our flexible downstairs room of our home promotes flexibility between a wide range of occupants, from becoming a new room for intergenerational households to a media room, a study, or an entrance room depending on the needs of the occupant. The dining and amenities room is a logical extension to the main living area, encouraging ease of movement between the living area, kitchen, and outdoor area through open living, but using light and space to create a more private laundry and bathroom to the side. These amenities cater to the less abled occupants or the elderly of intergenerational homes. The folding glass doors create a sense of connection but allow occupants to control the degree of connection to the outside environment. The backyard seeks to be a well-shaded area of the home where occupants can enjoy fresh air and connection with nature. The low-maintenance lawn can cater to a wide range of occupants, and the deck area can be used for some light entertaining. The use of a library of things promotes a sense of community with the occupants and reduces unnecessary tool waste. Finally, the second story features 4 bedrooms with beautiful natural light, as well as a bathroom and toilet for larger families. As well as this, large clerestory windows on the roof provides natural light to the center room, so you never feel too disconnected from nature.
Now, before we wrap up, we would like to summarize why and how is that New Seed Home became a sustainable and healthy house for our occupants. First, we tackle water systems, making our homes self-sufficient, improving resilience, and also eliminating wastewater. Biophilia have a strong input in our design, providing also shading, air purification, and privacy. The greenhouse not only provided fresh produce for area, but also promoted sustainable practice within the community. And last but not least, the design of flexible spaces made New City Home a multi-generational home where Erin and her family can grow and develop in a happy and healthy environment. Now we would like to open the floor for any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Element Zero, for that wonderful video. We've got 10 minutes for the judges to quiz you on the basis of your design and the things that they want to find out. So can we have some questions, please? Okay, Michelle.
Thank you. I'm interested the wonderful intergenerational elements and terribly important, of course, to support people to age in home and love the reflection and the profile of a new cultural family settling. I'm interested in how you imagine the spaces to be flexible. Are there particular treatments, particular options that you're anticipating to be able to enhance and to provide that experience?
I'm happy to speak about that, unless you guys have anything else. So we've included a fold-out wall between the living room and the kitchen. So this allows that, because it's usually open space, but it allows it to be closed up to be a little bit more intimate. Also off the living room, we have what we've called our flexible room. That space was a garage, but we decided for our occupant that could be better used as an extra interior room. So that could be used as a downstairs bedroom for less abled people who can't go up the stairs. It could be used as a kids' playroom or a more formal living room, or even a storage room because it has access to the front of the house through sliding doors. And then, yeah, we've kept the 4 bedrooms upstairs in case the family grows, if they get distant relatives over from Afghanistan to stay, yeah, those sorts of things.
Thank you. Anybody else? If you want to put up your hand or just jump in.
Yeah, Mark Eckerman here. I'll just jump in. What would you say would be the signature element of the home that represents the homes from waste theme within your design?
I can take us through a few materials that we have included. So our greenhouse at the front of the house utilizes recycled glass bottles with in a cob wall as a privacy feature to the next house's carport, as well as, yeah, on both sides of that greenhouse. Our floors are reclaimed timber floorboards. All of our bench tops for the kitchens and bathrooms and some of the splashbacks are using a recycled glass and textiles ceramic. We're also including straw bale walls for most of the external walls, which, yeah, utilize straw bale, like agricultural waste in the wall, and is also biodegradable. We're using rammed earth and reclaimed timber shakes for our roof system. Sorry, did that answer the question?
Ben, you have a question?
Yeah. So if, I guess, addressing these industry challenges takes, many partnerships and collaborations. Is there any kind of partnerships that you guys came across or would be interested in developing to address some of the challenges that you're focusing on?
I think a good example of a partnership we would like to develop is one of the ways we're looking at recycling material is using ground blast furnace slag in our cement as just an aggregate. So it would actually be good to collaborate with local steelmaking industries to, develop those relationships. So maybe we can start talking about ways we can integrate their waste product into ours and, recycle it and reuse it.
Another company that we came across was Viva Living Homes, which builds the straw bale houses in the Blue Mountains and Southern Highlands, lots of different areas. And so, yeah, they make these Viva panels, which are the straw bale walls, which can be put together in a lot of different ways.
Another one for me, which just a question on affordability and also in terms of livability. Were you able to do any preferably quantitative or indicative analysis of our base floor plan and your design recommendations, and do any comparisons of both affordability in terms of production and also lived experience and of livability, light, airflow and the like? Go for broke. I'm not precious. As I said in my opening comments a few moments ago, I'm actually really looking forward to learning from you.
I think I can speak a little bit about that. We did do a little bit of modeling on energy performance of the house. So the base house that we had was expected to perform in the minimal acceptance of the National Construction Code. And then the house that we proposed was actually increasing was decreasing the energy consumption during the lifetime. So some of the information that we gathered as well was all that saving that energy would carry throughout the life. So we used a lifespan of 50 years, and that saving was considerable. And then we also looked into the materials life cycle as well. So we did some sort of a life cycle analysis of the house from materials and also energy performance, and that was performing a lot better than the base house, the baseline.
Paul, do you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me okay, Tim?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
I'd just like to ask the team something about lighting and ventilation. It's quite difficult with a long, narrow footprint of houses like this to get good ventilation and light penetration into the house. I just wondered if you could share some of your thinking around how you approach those issues.
I don't know if Valentina or I can explain a little bit how we address that. Yeah, we were having a little bit of it because we have limited light and all the north it's blocked. So that's part of why we also increased the windows on the west with the warehouse, and also we opened the east. We have this foldable big window, but also what we added on the second floor was a clustery window that will allow to light and also help with ventilation on the second floor.
Additionally, the way we laid out the rooms on the top floor is to make sure that rooms would get, like bedrooms, would get a lot of natural light, where rooms that don't require as much, like bathrooms, wouldn't get as much, but they'd have other integrated ventilation systems, because obviously ventilation is quite important in a bathroom.
I'll just add to that quickly. We also did leave our staircase area open, just with sort of rails rather than solid walls in there, where the clerestory window is above that. So sort of got the ventilation going up into the stairwell and kept that area central to the bedrooms and the bathrooms on the top level, quite open. So yeah, if you were to open up bedroom doors, open windows, you sort of would get that flow of air right through the space. And yeah, tried not to have any super narrow little hallways up there on that top floor.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's we've come to the end of the questions for Team A, Element 0, and You Seed Home. So thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you for answering the questions. I'd like to invite Team B, iDesign, and the Lego House to briefly introduce themselves, and then we'll play your video. So if you got it, go ahead, go for it.
Hi, we're Team B, iDesign. We introduced ourselves during the pitch. So
okay.
Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy our video.
All right, well, we look forward to watching the video. Leela, over to you.
I acknowledge that the beautiful lands on which we are creating this recording and the land on which the home we are designing is Aboriginal land. We acknowledge that we are not Indigenous and therefore cannot assume what the needs of their community would be. We are very grateful for the local Aboriginal knowledge holders who worked with us to reach the solution we are presenting to you today. We pay respect to Aboriginal peoples listening to our pitch today. The Australian construction industry contributes to around 40% of our natural emissions. This has a significant contribution to Australia's impact on climate change and presents a significant need for innovative, sustainable, affordable housing. Alongside this, according to the Australian Design Review, there are only 5 practicing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander architects in the entirety of Australia. As a cause of this, Australian housing is not designed with the Indigenous community's needs in mind. This causation was confirmed in our research, where it was found there is no Indigenous-specific housing, despite over 1/3 of our Indigenous community living in social housing. Our team interviewed Aboriginal people from the Darawal Nation who had once lived in social housing to discover the unique needs they had for their homes that were not being met. Modern houses that are designed for the nuclear Australian family often do not meet these needs, as their structure and lifestyle is different to that of an Aboriginal family. With both these significant problems in mind, our interdisciplinary team, representing civil engineering, education, civil and architecture, and sustainable communities, set out to develop innovative solutions to the problem of providing sustainable, healthy and affordable homes that cater for the unique needs of Indigenous families in Australia. We have developed an open living plan that is fully made from sustainable, recycled or locally sourced materials. The installation will be done in such a way that it can be disassembled easily and can be further reused or moved to another location for reassembly. From information gathered through formal interviews, the plan has been fully designed with the needs of the Indigenous community at the forefront through elements such as maximised outdoor space.
The Housing Trust supplied these baseline plans, and the Sustainable Homes Challenge asked us how we would build it from waste. Here is our proposal. So here's the way we approached this. After reviewing the benchmark plans, the ideation phase consisted of choosing a specific occupant, namely the Indigenous community of Darawal country. This occupant is a core family unit of 4, but may increase up to 15 people at various times of the year. We then reached out to a member of the Illawarra Aboriginal Land Council who was willing to discuss housing design from an Indigenous perspective. This paved the way for further discussions with other members of the Indigenous community. We then workshopped our design with a few architects to iron out any weaknesses. The final product is Lego House, named so for the fact that the house is made from waste plastic bricks that click together. Easy as Lego. There are a number of design modifications that differentiate Lego House from typical display home designs and allow it to acutely respond to the occupant's needs. Maximise access to natural light and ventilation to establish an active connection with the outside world. Outdoor living spaces in the front and rear of the property to provide spaces for socialising and learning. front and rear access to the property, since rear access is predominantly used by the occupant, whilst also allowing easy access to food preparation areas. An interactive frontage, which consists of seating and space for growing, and aids in building connections within the community. Large living spaces on both floors to accommodate the family eating and sleeping together. Small bedrooms upstairs to maximize living space, as privacy wasn't considered important to the occupant. The bedroom and bathroom on the ground floor are compliant with the adaptable housing standards, thus have potential to achieve a livable housing Australia gold level standard. There are 3 water closets located within the house, with 2 being separate from general bathrooms, which is essential when there are large numbers of people living within the space. A simple inline kitchen is used to reduce disruptions to the flow of people throughout the house, and since the outdoor cooking area will predominantly be used, as it simultaneously acts as a place for cooking, gathering, storytelling, and learning. The garage was removed from the design and the space reallocated to create additional living space. As such, a communal carport covered in solar PV panels will be offered for parking. This prepares the site for eventual transition to electric vehicles and establishes a solar PV virtual power plant. It simultaneously increases a sense of community and encourages occupants to take alternate modes of transport, such as walking, carpooling, or catching a train or bus. It should also be noted that each townhouse will be fitted with solar tiles and rainwater harvesting facilities in order to reduce energy and water consumption, and by extension, reduce the cost of utility bills. The main focus of the Sustainable Homes Challenge is to create a house made from waste-derived products, and Lego Housing incorporates a number of unique materials to address this. A Portuguese company, Critical Concrete Group, has successfully built houses using recycled rubber tyres filled with gravel and compacted soil for footings. Already in use in Colombia and New Zealand, waste plastic bricks slot together like Lego pieces to create fireproof, earthquake-resistant, and aesthetically pleasing homes with little maintenance required. DuraPanel is a sustainable, acoustic, and fire-resistant wall, floor, and ceiling sheeting that is composed of reclaimed wheat straw. And tiles used in the wet rooms will be derived from waste textile materials.
So, what are the benefits to the occupants? The east-west orientation of house allows maximum passive sunlight and ventilation in the house. The thermal insulation with plastic bricks and textile bats keeps the house warm in winter and cool in summer. The strategic plan allows optimum interaction with the community and nature. On the other hand, the closeness provides maximum privacy. To sum up, the house provides benefits such as less operational energy, enhanced comfort, resilient to climatic conditions, healthier and happier living, and connection to the land and society. But what are the benefits to the world? Due to the usage of tractile solar tiles for the electricity generation and aquacomb for the rainwater harvesting leads to reduced reliance on conventional energy forms. The installation of each element will be done in such a way that it can be disassembled easily to reuse at the end of life. The usage of locally available materials such as a recycled steel frame structure and recycled carpet tiles and bamboo flooring leads to sustainable yet affordable housing with reduced carbon emissions. In summary, this house benefits in such a way that it emits less carbon, it reduces the waste material, reduction in energy consumption, less water and air pollution, reduced usage of endangered or slow growing natural resources. The advantages of this house design includes high thermal efficiency, solar energy, natural lighting and ventilation, rainwater harvesting, usage of locally available waste-derived sustainable materials, and sustainable end of life due to innovative installation of sustainable materials.
So what is the market for this house? We believe that there is a market for where quick and efficient construction is required, for example, to address the current social housing issue, or in disaster relief, such as the bushfires of 2 years ago, or when you have a difficult block to build on without footings rather than a traditional concrete slab, provides a much easier way to build. Also, using waste as a priority. The graph there illustrates that in 2018 to 2019, Australia produced 6.6 million tonnes of metal waste, 2.5 million tonnes of plastic waste, 800,000 tonnes of textile waste, and 449,000 tonnes of tyre waste. If you look at the recovery rates of this waste, it's quite concerning. 75.5% of the metal was sent to landfill or overseas. 84% of the plastics were also sent to landfill or overseas. 74% of the textiles and 24% of the tyres were either sent to landfill or sent overseas. If we look at the expenditure per industry, we're looking at the construction, manufacturing, agricultural and household areas contributing to a lot of cost and a lot of waste. So we believe that by using materials from these areas, such as the metal waste, the plastic, the textiles and the tyre waste, by recycling those and using them in building materials, we can reduce the waste, increase the recovery rates and reduce the overall cost of waste. Are there any competitors? Within this market, Mirvac this year launched a ceramic tile. They went into partnership with the University of New South Wales to produce this tile and used it for their kitchens and bathrooms in an apartment block. And that's the first time that a big company has used a tile, a waste product in their production. So what do we believe the solutions are and how does our solution benefit? We believe that by creating new manufacturing opportunities in Australia, we can create jobs and revitalise the manufacturing industry by recycling and remaking the textile bricks and the textile battens and the plastic bricks. We'll reduce the amount of waste in landfill in Australia and also globally. We'll reduce cost and time in construction, and we will protect the environment that the houses are built on without a traditional concrete slab. These are our references, and thank you for watching.
Thank you, Team B, iDesign. We open the floor to questions from our judges, and the rest of the audience can type their questions in the Q&A. So,
I'll start with
Mark.
With a question. Interested in what the team concluded with regard to, I guess, the benefits and the fallbacks of traditional built on site construction versus varying degrees of prefabrication. I didn't get a sense of which end of that spectrum you think this house would be built within. So can you pass some comments on what degree of prefabrication is optimal for incorporating waste into this building?
We considered both prefab and on-site construction when looking at plastic bricks. There's a company in a Nordic company, a country I've just forgotten, Finland, it's Finland, sorry. They produce prefab plastic bricks, but they make it to size and shape. They prefab it and then ship it to you. And then the Colombian bricks, all the bricks just fit together. So we just thought for ease of design and for more flexibility, definitely, that we went with the Colombian product. So then we just, you could adjust it really easily rather than having a product from Finland that had to be made, and they only had 5 different designs you could choose from. So
it's great to see you looking so far across the world for innovative products and inspiration. So well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. I might jump in.
Yes, Ben, go ahead.
One thing I've been really enjoying in my work is looking into making homes affordable to purchase and affordable to operate at the same time. What were the kind of considerations you came to when you're kind of balancing those two against each other with the affordable to operate and affordable to purchase?
In terms of affordability, we only had American stats, but for the steel frame plastic brick house to be built, a 2-bedroom house with kitchen, bathroom, living area, it can be constructed in 5 days and cost $6,800 US. That was in 2017. So we had those statistics to go from, and then we looked at, for example, choosing the footers. When you're looking at pouring a concrete slab, you're paying up to around $300 per cubic metre in Australia. And if you're using the entire footers, then it's obviously a lot cheaper because you're not using that huge concrete slab. So we're saving thousands of dollars in concrete footings, and then mortar and bricks and bricklayers. And I know our brickie charges us $250 a day. We get mates rates, and it takes more than a day to build a house. And if you're looking at that, one bricklayer, 5 days, and that's not including just to put the 5 days of the plastic bricks together, and multiply that by about 5, because you need about 5 brickies on site. You're saving a lot of money when you can just have even the homeowner putting it together, because they're male, female, and interlock, sort of like so, and they slide into the steel frames. So we're looking at cost saving in terms of that.
Yeah, so that's sort of the capital side of things. Then for operational, we've decided to put solar on both elevations, the east and west side, using the track-tile solar tiles. And yeah, so that will offset a lot of the energy demand there. And then additionally, using in the communal car parking, having the carport covered in solar as well, just for any additional needs. So that will sort of create a like virtual PV solar plant. So then we can share that throughout the entire site that way, which will be especially beneficial for when we transition to electric vehicles. So that will reduce like energy costings there. And then looking at on-site rainwater collection and recycling grey water as well. There's a company, Acknowledgement, which actually puts their like water storage tanks under the house, so like in the ground. So there's no like problems with like aesthetics or anything on the outside. You don't have like a big ugly tank on the side of your house.
Sorry, that also works with our slightly raised footers as well, because they just go straight under. So there's no digging in ground.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So then recycling water on site will also, reduce the cost of like your water bills. So.
And with the Aquacomb, they use recycled products for their grey water, and then you've got to use new plastics for their drinking water and such, just because of safety reasons. But for the toilet, for the washing machine, for the gardens, things like that, using recycled water in recycled tanks under the house, kept on site. So hopefully, again, reducing costs.
That was a fairly impressive answer. Paul Cooper, you have a question?
I did, although Mark has got his hand up, so I might just pass to Mark.
Mark Jones, you're on mute.
Can't hear you, Mark.
Okay, gotcha. Congratulations on the research and the innovation, pulling the carport away from the building and making that more flexible. Congratulations too on showing furniture in the plan, so that we've got some idea of how that building's being used, so that's clearer. I'm curious, with the cohort that you've chosen as your clients with the Aboriginal community, that how you considered outdoor space, which is usually fairly important to that group of people. So that was that considered in the design?
We actually interviewed several Darul Indigenous people in creating our design. In terms of the usable front footage, we have integrated seats at the front, and the plan is on the verge actually to use a functional food source verge. So in an ideal world, we'd have vegetable gardens, fruit gardens, tree, things like that. And with actually not having a front fence, then that front setting is open to the whole community. They can sit there and have their cup of tea or coffee and talk to the neighbours and grab some food, etc. In the back of the yard, in our design, we have gates on either side, which are lockable, so they can go in and out of their neighbours' properties, and a rear gate for access, because the Indigenous population said that was generally how they got in and out of their houses in the informal setting. We have, the plan was to have vegetable gardens around again, fruit and veggie gardens in the back, and a fire pit, because fire is important as just a storytelling medium, a place to gather.
And the fire pit would be more of a place to meet and eat than would a dining room, hence some alterations with the dining room.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you noted on the plans, we actually cut a back section off the house, moved the bifolds in, so you've got sort of an undercover area that is not
inside outside
it's
space.
inside out, it's literally inside outside space. So you've got you can be sitting out there with the doors open and have access to the house. You can have the doors closed if the kids are running amok inside and you just want some adult time outside. And you can have those doors closed and they access straight into the kitchen, so you can go in and out, cook, eat, commune.
As much open space as possible and connection as possible. So like lack of doors downstairs, like we kind of tried to keep as many spaces as open as possible, because that's what we noted in our interviews. The direct like access to outside, which was just connected to the indoors, like nothing is kind of cut off or different sections. It's all kind of one.
Oh, thank you.
One clear sight line, sorry.
I just, no questions from me. I just wanted to congratulate and thank you for the principles of co-design and particularly consultation with Aboriginal people. Well done, wonderful, thank you.
Paul or Mark?
I might just ask a quick question. On the other end of the spectrum from co-design, down at the technical nitty-gritty end, I was really pleased to see you on your website, you've got some calculations about embodied carbon in the typical sort of construction system. And so you've made a start on comparing what a homes from waste house looks like in terms of overall carbon emissions. My question is, did you find it difficult getting information? And so obviously, if you had more time, you'd do more work on this. Where do you think would be the key issues that you'd like to look at, perhaps with some of these products? How would you get the information to sell your house as a homes from waste house quantitatively?
Yeah, actually, it was a bit difficult to find the exact numbers for the materials, but what we did, we just calculated the embodied carbon emissions for the conventional materials, and as we have incorporated innovative and sustainable materials which are not extensively used in the market, so we couldn't find the specific embodied carbon data. So
I think if we had more time, I would have liked to have contacted the company in Colombia and talked to them about their product to find out a lot more about that. Steel is self-explanatory, really. Durapanel, they were forthcoming with a lot of information. So yeah, just to be able to compare more products, because our design incorporates Durapanel for the floor, wall and ceiling panels as opposed to conventional gyprock and yellow tongue, because that's made from agricultural waste, a waste product, which is another unused waste stream. And they're an Australian company, so they produce in Victoria, Greater Victoria.
Yeah, it's 100 biodegradable as well.
Okay, well, I'll thank Team B, the iDesign team and Lego House for that, answering all the questions, technical detailed questions. And I'll invite Team C, the R3 team with their R3 Venn house. I hope I pronounced that right. So if you'd like me to introduce you, or do you want to introduce yourselves, or have you done that within your video?
We do introduce ourselves in the video. Okay. But I don't think we're opposed to saying a quick hello.
All right, you say hello. So you are Charles?
Yep, my name is Charles. I study at the University of Adelaide here in South Australia. I'm doing architecture, and yeah, that's me.
Okay, thank you for joining us from South Australia.
Thank you very much.
Hi guys, my name is Paris. I study sustainable communities at UOW. This has been such an amazing opportunity and learning experience, so I'm really excited to share what we've come up with to you today.
Thank you, Paris.
Hi, I'm Stephen. I'm a civil engineering student at the University of Wollongong, and yeah, it's been a great experience. I've loved hearing from all of the panelists, and I'm keen to get into it.
Hi, I'm Tyler and I'm studying a double in architectural and civil engineering at Wollongong, and I've really enjoyed working with such a diverse group and multidisciplinary group of wonderful people.
Hi everyone, I'm Pallavi. I'm a final year electrical engineering student at UOW,
And I've just been really passionate about sustainability, and I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to get involved, and I've loved working with the team that we have and also the whole program in general. Thank you. Hope you enjoy our pitch.
Yeah, thank you, Team C, and let's play the video.
Imagine not knowing if you'll have a roof over your head a week from now. Imagine not having a secure place to call home. This is a reality for so many single-parent families. Of the 1.1 million single-parent families in Australia, almost 80% are single mothers, with only one income to support them. Many of these families live under housing stress, spending the majority of their income on rent, unable to afford other essentials. We are seeing a rise in the cost of housing and a decline in housing suitable for people on low incomes. This lack of affordable rental housing is putting the most vulnerable families in our community at risk of homelessness and poverty. Single mothers like Rachel are struggling to support their families, work for a living, and provide their children with a safe growing environment. Our vision is to give single parents like Rachel a chance. Our design focuses on security, affordability, quality, health, and environment. In using these driving aspects, we provide Rachel with a safe place to call home and benefit the environment through our design simultaneously. To fulfill this vision, we wanted to fully understand our occupant, their needs, values, and the way they use the spaces in their home. We talked to real people, gained real insights, and stepped into the shoes of a single mother to design for exactly what she needed. We developed a deep understanding of the challenges facing our occupant, and these core values have guided our design journey. The main challenge of the design was to model the house around Rachel and families like Rachel's, to provide the spaces her family needs now and as they grow. So our goal was to design a house that will reflect security, a house that will encourage affordability, a house that will facilitate adaptability, a house that Rachel can call home.
Welcome to Revan House. Rental houses are often seen as these cheap little buildings that are completely detached from the outside world and sit there like a sore thumb on a foot. Our design, Revan House, aims to bridge this gap between outside and inside, giving Rachel a wall of folding glass doors that let sunlight in through the house using our signature open floor plan. It became clear in our interview process that outdoor spaces are important to single parents, so we made sure to emphasize this factor in our design. The backyard is brought into the home, allowing Rachel to keep an eye on her children while she performs tasks from her study, prepares a meal, or entertains guests in our lounge room. To encourage individuality and flexibility as the children grow up, we have integrated extra spaces that can be used in different ways. Spaces which could be used as an extra living room or perhaps an extra study space. A sliding cupboard which allows for a hidden desk to be utilized, or perhaps another cupboard if Rachel needs more storage space.
According to the National Waste Policy, in 2017 alone, Australia's construction industry output 20 megatons in construction and demolition waste. That's 20 million tonnes of waste. And why do so many buildings get demolished and contribute to this waste? Because over time, people's needs change and buildings have been unable to adapt. That's why we've come up with this flexible modular system that adapts to the occupant's needs. The system has been designed as a series of square panels, incorporating a range of features from structural framework and insulation to plumbing and wiring. This rigid system and its simple connections allows a single person to deconstruct and reconstruct most of the house by themselves, giving families like Rachel's a chance to grow with absolute freedom to alter their house to suit their changing needs, however and whenever they wish. In the long term, the reusability of these building panels will make homes cheaper financially and environmentally. The secret lies within the supply chain. We can turn this, a building industry built upon individual parts, individual people and individual processes, into a synthesized system, one that unites all building processes. This is how we're going to revolutionize house design, provide for Rachel's future and resolve the waste problem with affordable, flexible homes built from waste that never return to waste.
As a country, we generate over 70 million tonnes of waste annually. This waste is beginning to dominate our oceans, our landfill and even our air. How can we reduce our consumption of these single-use resources? How can we reuse waste in a sustainable way? And how can we reabsorb waste back into everyday use? Out of the 20 million tonnes of construction waste, 76% of this can easily be recycled, and we hope to push this further. We hope to do this by absorbing construction waste into the home. Let's start with the walls. We have achieved this by engaging in a vernacular solution, rammed earth. Rammed earth can be made from resources collected locally, reducing our embodied energy. This excavation residual is an upcycled gem. With its simple and familiar construction methods being similar to concrete, rammed earth is versatile, it's accessible and it's sustainable. Tethering our design to the environment, this grounded material brings a healthy indoor environmental quality to spaces, along with its natural flow of layers and colours. However, modular prefabricated panels is where the true difference is at. We will not use traditional heavy bricks or fragile plasterboards that leave behind a trail of cut-offs. For our walls, these modular panels will be precisely made with zero cut-off waste and zero new resources. To achieve this, the panels consist of cork, textiles, soft plastics and aluminium drinking cans. This collection of recycled waste joins together to make the ultimate compound of prefabricated panels, combining all the positive benefits of each material, such as cork's healthy benefits, textiles' insulating properties, aluminium cans' versatility and plastics' adaptability. The modular panels become a super product with endless potential for reusing. It is these qualities in the chosen material that represent how Revan House will adapt and reflect the growing nature of families just like Rachel's.
The value proposition highlights the various benefits and values that our house offers. Our brand, Revan House, is derived from our team name, RQ. It embodies the principles of the 3 Rs, reduce, reuse, rethink, to produce a holistic design. We identified the occupants' main problem as there being a lack of affordable homes adapted to their specific needs and requirements. Some of the benefits of the house are that we have an incredibly open floor plan, which allows light through the entirety of the home and provides comfort to our target demographic of single mothers with young children. The large living space offers direct access to the backyard with full wall folding doors, which is overlooked by the decking. This provides a dignified and healthy living environment at affordable prices and isn't just another typical budget home. We use sustainable and locally sourced alternatives to industry standards, challenging the current market by reducing production costs. These solutions are valuable to the local community as they provide not just an adequate space, but a desirable space. How is our house different? Well, we have envisioned our house to be adaptable to the family that lives in it and their changing needs at different points in time. This in turn adds to the sustainable practices by increasing the life of the building. And once the end of life is reached, we hope to be able to simply disassemble the various parts of the house and put them elsewhere. We've incorporated innovation into various aspects of the house. Some of the standout features as part of this effort are the modular panels that stop building waste and allow materials to be processed separately, easing the difficulty in construction and reducing costs. They also allow the house to adapt as the children get older and the family's needs evolve. The inclusion of biophilic design to offer natural ventilation, temperature variation and green spaces within the home to facilitate a positive mood and increased well-being. The creative usage of space so that it flows and allows Rachel to monitor her children while working around the house. The outdoor-indoor integration using folding doors to make the house feel bigger. A standard door is also provided in that ward to allow for seasonal requirements. The provision of a balcony and a front garden space to encourage community engagement, social and cultural interaction, as well as green living. Revan House is just an ordinary house, but it has extraordinary potential.
Hi, I'm Paris.
Hi, I'm Pallavi.
Hi, I'm Tyler.
Hi, I'm Steve.
Hi, I'm Charlie.
And we are Team R Cubed.
Well, thank you, Team R Cubed and Revan House. I didn't pronounce either of those right to start with. I'll open the floor to our judges to ask you some questions. Mark Eckerman.
Yeah, so I'll probably ask the same question I posed to the first group. You know, if you had to pick a signature material that exemplifies the homes from waste, you know, which would be the pick of the various features in your home, the various materials you've incorporated?
Yeah, I would. I reckon the aluminium cans would be the biggest waste material that we're trying to promote in the house, as it has a very high. Producing aluminium new has a very high CO2 embodied carbon attached to it, and so being able to recycle this as external cladding for the house is a really good way to keep to recycle old aluminium and keep it in a life cycle and supply chain for that.
I think materials that have naturally established a really good loop to secure them back into a recycling process are great materials to start with. So well done.
Who's next? Paul.
I'll ask a quick technical question, I suppose. And first of all, that was very powerful, team. Well done. That was, yes, got us all thinking quite hard. My question is around the wall system. So Steve talked about the panelised system that is ultimately reusable, but you also talked, Tyler, about rammed earth. So I'm a little confused about where the balance is between these systems. So because you can't necessarily throw everything and the kitchen sink into the design of this house. So can you just perhaps pick apart those two things, rammed earth versus the panelised system?
Yeah, so the panel system is like for all of the interior walls, because with the panel system, one of the key functionality things about it is that you can, because the panels are so small, they're about, I'm not 100% sure because it's a concept, but the panels will be smaller so that you can move a wall and just pop it out and then pop piece by piece and just build it up into a new area. So all of the internal walls are made out of those modules, and then the exterior walls that divide the houses are rammed earth. And the reason for that being that the rammed earth had properties which Tyler might be able to go into, but the rammed earth was really good for the joining walls, just because then I imagine it would stop the sound and a lot of different things. And the rammed earth can just return to the earth easily by itself, and the panels, modular panels inside, can just be reused. And yeah, so that was the decision.
That's
Yeah.
great. That makes perfect sense.
Okay, I think Mark Jones, you have a question, and then Michelle.
Yeah, I think Paul beat me to it. I had the same confusion between the rammed earth and the modular walls, but thanks for that answer. But with the rammed earth, which is a delightful material, but having rammed some earth myself, very labour intensive. So did you investigate the actual construction of the rammed earth?
Well, yeah, you can use molds for the earth, and then use like a jackhammer type of system to compress the earth. And then you go one layer at a time. It's quite a lot less labour intensive than, I guess, earth chips are used to, with people using sledgehammers to compact earth into tyres. So that is quite less labour intensive.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you, Charlie. Michelle.
Thank you. thank you for recognising one of those very practical things. As all parents, not just single parents, we have to be able to have eyes in the back of our heads. So it's helpful to be able to watch our kids from all sorts of different spaces. I'm interested in two aspects, comparison between your design and house and the original base house from our Corrimal project. Comparisons, if you've had a chance to do them, on build and construction cost and also livability enhancement and improvement.
So basically for production costs, I mentioned in the pitch as well, just the reusability and the material sourcing as well will be locally sourced, so that cuts a lot of production costs. Other things like using and reusing things would be much easier as well with them, you know, in terms of having to source them from scratch. So those are the two things that we sort of overall hope that will reduce the production costs, and therefore affordability aspect for our occupant will be highlighted. So the other aspect was the livability. So the different things like we, so even though let's say there is a space constraint, but what we have done is like folding doors and including the backyard into the actual home and including green spaces and those sorts of things will just enhance that. So like we said, it's not just a typical budget home. It makes sure that all the needs that the occupant through our consultations with actual single mothers has told us would like to see in their homes has been included. So even though it might be costing as a typical budget home, it still offers a very sort of dignified and healthy living environment for single mothers and children.
Just to add on to that too, we've really emphasised in our design multifunctional spaces. So being able to turn the upstairs space into a living area or a play area or even a study. As the family grows and changes, the house can also adapt for that. Things like the downstairs little study nook as well, that can be used as cupboard space. So there's also flexibility in the house arrangement, which can cater for, the growing family, but also different lifestyles as well that the family might have.
Yeah, and as our, I guess, society is changing with all these new conditions, implementing study spaces is quite important for the home, and not just study spaces, but having them separate to each other in case, people are on a phone, on a Zoom meeting upstairs, another person can go to the downstairs study. Just little details like that.
Not a question, just a statement from me really quickly. I liked how on your website you said, occupants have the opportunity to sell their internal walls if they so wish to change the house design. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that was, oh, sorry.
Mark Ekman, do you have another question? No? We've got time for just one last question. If not, I'll just say I thought your fly through was really impressive, and it hats off for the CAD work that went into that, and as Mark had said, it's nice to see furniture and to be able to visualize how the spaces are used. So well done, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we've run out of time for on questions, so I'll thank Team C, R-Cubed, with your Revan House, and I'll invite Team D, Alawa, and the
Hi, my name is Vishma, and I am an environmental engineering graduate from University of Wollongong.
Hi, I'm Katrina. I'm studying architecture at the University of Canberra.
Hi, my name is Cooper. I'm studying a double degree between architectural and civil engineering at the University of Wollongong.
Is that everybody who's here?
Hi, I'm Jeanette. I'm studying a Master's of Social Work from Wollongong.
Thanks, Jeanette. Is Matthew here? Okay.
Should be here, but yeah, he stays in architectural and applied science degree.
Thanks for that, Cooper. Lila will play their video.
Welcome judges and distinguished guests. We are from Team Alawa presenting our project Karinya, the Housing Trust's rental housing program located at Cornwall, New South Wales. We are a team of 5 members from diverse backgrounds who are united by our passion towards sustainable development of communities. Alawa, meaning stay here, rest, sit down, and Karinya, meaning peaceful home, are both Aboriginal words which speaks of our intentions for creating a safe place to call home. I would now like to invite Jeanette to speak about our occupant.
Karinya is a home for a migrant family, providing a safe, sustainable home that supports family, physical, emotional, and community growth. Wollongong's history of purpose-built migrant huts and the global response to house displaced Afghan nationals influenced our occupant profile choice. Our demographic choice reflects the identified need of housing for a refugee or migrant family of 7 people with children under 25. Karinya's sustainable design has been influenced by the occupant's needs, family, home, and community. The family size of our chosen demographic will not be stagnant, and the home has been designed to accommodate multi-generational living and allow multiple concept of family. Sustainability for the Housing Trust is maximised by designing a large family home with multiple personal quarters, adaptable to communal housing for older women, an emerging demographic vulnerable to homelessness and social isolation without modification. Now Matt will continue to talk about our design.
When it comes to the design of the home, our team came up with one question. How can we create a home that allows for comfort and adaptability to a larger family structure while being situated on such a small site? The intended family size of the site is a 7-person family, which is speculated to change dramatically throughout the occupation of the dwelling. Some key features of the design that cater to comfort and adaptability are the skylights within the roof, which allow for sun to penetrate through the void and into the living spaces of both levels throughout the entirety of the day. The home can be broken down into 3 sections. The front and the back of the home can be seen as private space for sleeping and cleaning, and the middle of the home can be seen as an open plan for living and playing. I guess you could consider it as the part of the home that brings families together and allows for new memories to form. Memories of a fresh start at life in that of a world that does not offer many. Memories of raising children, watching them grow old and go on to achieve their potential. You see, it all starts with the way we live, and everyone should be given a chance to start. The movable walls were a key design feature in our house. The ability to alter rooms in order to meet the occupants' changing needs were a priority, and having an extra bedroom rather than a lounge area and/or creating privacy in the downstairs lounge area was seen as a must for our occupants. As seen on screen, we will adopt a similar design to Aura Living's movable walls.
As outlined in the brief, we are designing homes from waste. This immediately became a focal point for the design, using current construction waste trends as seen on screen to dictate some of our material choices. Within the project, 4 materials were chosen due to their ability to recycle construction waste: ferric, rammed earth, timbercrete, and mycelium. These materials were able to parallel their building fabric equivalents while aligning better with the brief of the project. Ferric is a carbon-negative concrete alternative. Ferric used for the slabs in the project is made up of 60% waste steel as well as 20% fly ash. As a result of these inputs, it would be mutually beneficial to form a partnership with BlueScope, as they produce both fly ash through the creation of steel and import waste steel to reuse in their steelmaking process. As a result of this, more waste steel can be diverted from landfill and waste products see another life in the flooring of the site. Another material investigated on site is rammed earth for use as a feature wall. The rammed earth wall will be composed of on-site excavated soil. The purpose of reusing on-site soil was to firstly bring a bit of history into the designs, as well as reduce the need to move it off-site. In addition to this, rammed earth also has the added benefits as acting as a natural motif within the design, adding thermal mass, reducing heating costs, and ensuring a more comfortable environment for the occupants. Timbercrete is a substitute for masonry bricks. The benefit of using timbercrete over conventional bricks is their ability to recycle sawdust and wood chips, utilising them for a binding agent for cement. Additionally, timbercrete also has a higher thermal, noise and fire rating, as well as lower embodied energy and carbon. Another material that we explored is one that's gaining attention from various industries, mycelium, which is a root-like structure of fungi recognized for its innate ability to grow into manipulated formwork and colonize carbon-based materials such as paper, cardboard and straw. The possible application for mycelium technology in the construction industry include acoustic paneling, floor tiles and insulation, and can also be used as a biodegradable substitute for polystyrene and other plastics. For our design, we use mycelium in combination with timbercrete to create structurally insulated panels, which make up the internal walls of the home.
While designing Karinya, we wanted to make use of all the natural resources that are available on the site. The home is run completely on solar energy generated using rooftop solar panels. Excess energy generated during the day is stored in the community grid and used during night. Karinya's commitments towards energy management extends to energy-efficient design with natural lighting and ventilation and use of energy-efficient equipments. Karinya's potential to be a part of a state's solar virtual power plant program opens multiple rebates and income opportunities. Rainwater and stormwater are collected and used on-site for various needs. Water-efficient consumption is made sure by the selection of star-rated products and choosing indigenous species in the garden and lawn. By designing Karinya, we did manage to divert a lot of construction waste going into the landfill, but our vision for a sustainable future didn't end there. We wanted to make sure Karinya will further keep diverting waste from the landfill. Packaging waste is reduced a lot by our household and community gardens. Bokashi composting is implemented on-site to be able to compost raw and cooked bio-waste including dairy, fat, citrus, meat, and many more, which other composting methods cannot. Any additional green waste is disposed using Wollongong City's Poco Bin program. Community living through shared physical and personal resources has been incorporated into Karinya's design. Community relationships maximizes the opportunities for families to develop positive codependent relationships. Community gardens allows individuals to grow their own food and create connections as they share the experience with neighbors. Refugees and migrants are able to connect with traditional fruit and vegetables, retaining their traditions while providing opportunities to participate in common activity regardless of the language barrier. Community resources has been extended to provide a community carpool for residents of the site, all electric, removing the reliance of two cars per site. Migrants and refugees alongside other community members may not own a car. Mobility assists in employment options without the requirement of owning a full-time car. Thank you from Team Alawa for joining us today, and to know more about Karinya, please visit our website. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Team Alawa, and your house, your Karinya house is beautiful. So I'll open the floor to questions from the judges.
Okay, I'll hop in first.
Thank you, Michelle. I was just going to point to somebody.
Thank you for the beautiful designs, and from my perspective, wonderful to be able to see some of your material selections in situ in just the way you did the visual presentation. Because of the sourcing of the materials and the selections, again, a common question for each of the groups. So Team 5, it's probably coming your way too. Were you able to give a direct comparison between both the construction material affordable costs comparison, your design compared to our base design, and also able to make any comparisons of livability? And as you may have heard me say, please go for it. I'm keen to learn.
I guess we didn't really put too much focus into the costing, the cost comparison between your designs versus our designs. The big key focus of us was making sure that we reuse construction waste and it was locally found. And we wanted to try and attempt to reduce that or ensure that circular economy and making sure that we're reusing waste products in these kind of materials. And I think that was put a bit more of an emphasis on that rather than the costing of it. If we had a bit more time for the final deliverables, we would have definitely investigated costing regarding those materials.
Next question, Mark Jones.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach. The site for all the groups has been challenging with the east-west orientation and the challenges then getting the good northern light we look for into houses. But you've taken an interesting approach with the sleeping areas to the east and west. I'm looking up here at your poster at the same time, but so appreciate the flexibility of moving walls. But light into that central living area would be a bit of a challenge. How did you address that? Because it says on the lower floor too, I understand. Yeah.
So we have an atrium which is on the northern side, which has sunlight that has direct access to the ground level. So between access from upstairs as well as windows from the north and the west, that will allow for adequate light filtration.
I had a question. I really love that you've expanded your thinking into the precinct with the microgrid and the sharing of assets. Was there a study or a piece of research or even a demonstration area that led you to the microgrid thinking with the sharing of solar resources and electric vehicle charging stations and the like?
Yeah, so I was actually looking into geothermal, like community living, so having like heat pump systems around the precinct, and that kind of led me to the kind of conclusion of using the same kind of idea of that community living from a solar perspective. So I actually did an energy model external that isn't on scene, but I was trying to test for ensuring that our site was able to produce energy and then store it, and then it wouldn't have to rely on the grid energy. So we could actually store all that energy and then it would go back into the houses at night. So, yeah.
That's great.
More questions?
Just a comment. I like the idea of the movable fences. Fences are an interesting concept. And I know friends who live in a very similar situation as the development that we're talking about here, who feel very strongly about fences just putting up a physical barrier, a social barrier, and all sorts of barriers. So I wondered whether you were inspired by any other developments where fences weren't there at all, or what made you think of that as an innovation?
Oh, sorry, Jeanette, you go.
No, sorry, the fences has really come through as the social sustainable aspect, where really dividing a community and looking at the demographics that really are attracted to affordable housing and providing with the community connections where they can actually occur organically and naturally without putting up those physical barriers, but allowing them to put them up when they're required. Not everyone will connect with their neighbours, but having that potential to be able to have periods where there's more privacy and less, to really encourage, getting to know your neighbours and using that a built-in codependence as such, as opposed to service reliance. So that's probably more of a social work concept, and the studies come much more about that demographic of building communities to be self-sustainable rather than building in service dependency is much where that study came from. And a lot of that comes through with building areas out the front, and there's a lot of social work studies into building those type of things to break down those barriers, create the community, and create sustainable relationships where people can actually advocate for who they want rather than actually having services imposed on them. And so we try to put that into the design.
Well, thank you for explaining that, because that just opens up a whole realm of thoughts and issues that we wouldn't have otherwise seen. Thank you.
Mark Jones, you have another question?
No.
Okay.
I was wondering if Leela would be able to show some of the renders I sent her, or if I'll be able to share my screen and show them. There's like a few. Oh, yeah. Yeah, just flick through them, I guess.
So what are we looking at here?
These are just some renders that we didn't have time to put in the presentation, so I thought it might be a good idea to show it off, just so that you can see the whole house.
So I've got a question, because you've one of the materials you've looked at is ferroc, and one of my thesis students was studying that this year. What drew you to that particular product?
I was initially thinking of ways to use a substitute for a slab on the site, because I knew concrete has a high embodied energy, and I know there's definitely pushes for using more, like using like CLT and stuff like that. So I wanted to actually see if there was a substitute. So I was looking to build our actual waste products that were local to us, and kind of stumbled upon steel, and then through that I went to ferroc, and then kind of through that relation had a look into BlueScope and tried to relate it through there.
Mark, I think you might have a research collaboration happening. We've got time for one last question. People are getting a bit tired, I think, at the end of the day, on the end of a long week, at the end of a long year. Yeah, I thank you for sharing those extra renders, and I think be able to visualize what the group of houses looks like together is very helpful. So thanks for that. I think without further ado, I'll just say thank you to Team Alawa for sharing their pitch with us and answering our questions. And lucky last is
Thank you.
Team Redesign with the Circularity House. So this is our biggest team, and maybe I'll just introduce you, because you're a big team, and we've got Matt doing physical geography, Kavita doing construction management from South Australia. Jordan is one of our architectural engineering students here in Wollongong. Edith is a civil engineering student, also here at Wollongong. And we've got Ali doing computer science, and Elizabeth doing architectural engineering. So let's have the Redesign video, and then we'll go to our final Q&A round.
Hi, we're the Redesign team. We're all so grateful and fortunate to work on this project at such an early stage of our professional lives, and we're really excited to show you what we've come up with. It's very rare that you get to work on a project that will change someone's life, change the construction industry, and change how long we get to live on this earth.
As it stands, the Housing Trust has developed, managed and maintained over 1,200 properties. By tweaking their construction projects, the Housing Trust has an opportunity to significantly reduce the landfill.
Redesign incorporated 10 criteria into our proposal that will reshape the way the construction industry thinks about waste.
In developing the concept for Circularity House, we chose to emphasise a connection to land, environment and community, and show how that approach, combined with sustainable design techniques and materials, can benefit the well-being of the occupants and the planet. The foundation of our design comes from the connection our occupant has to country. We believe building a sustainable home means building for geography and context, and removing the definitive separation of the internal and external. The footprint of the house is small, and its east-west orientation led us to raise the ceiling height and include a large aperture on the skillion roof, giving a view to the sky and facing north to allow for maximum sunlight, which filters through the upper gallery to the open ground level. Though Circularity House has large windows on both open faces, greenery would be used as privacy screens and shading. Ideally, these would be endemic species, with pollinator-attracting flowers planted around a shared green space and urban farm, the maintenance of which would increase the well-being and self-sufficiency of the development and its occupants. In a residential block like the site given to us for the challenge, it would be nice to have a friendly relationship with the people with whom you share a wall. Circularity House removes traditional static boundaries between dwellings and replaces them with shared social and functional spaces. The green corridor would house these spaces, and while individual abodes would have all necessary requirements to prepare a meal for that household, a preparation space allows for the act of preparing and sharing a meal with others, which brings people together. The green corridor would also house shared parking and laundry facilities, sparing people the running costs of amenities that a household may only need weekly or fortnightly. The layered design allows people to open up the space as much as they are willing at any time. A community event may mean that all boundaries are removed on the ground level, which creates a continuous flow of movement from the street to the green corridor. The solarium at the back of the house may be used as an outdoor space most of the time, but has the potential to be totally enclosed and act as a sleeping space as required. A Circularity House is designed for a large family with a strong connection. Maneuverable fabric partitions let the family have a connection to each other, even if they are using the space in different ways. Opportunities for storage are found where possible, and an ensuite on the ground level means that our occupant isn't required to use the stairs that lead to the other sleeping areas.
Redesign used a variety of materials, nearly all of which are derived from waste, to address the Sustainable Homes Challenge criteria, with a focus on local Australian-sourced sustainable products. This included assessing the technical innovation, the affordability, and the impact to the health of our occupants from these materials. The waste materials used all have a majority of recycled content, often 100%. We also considered the embodied energy in their production, their carbon footprint, and also the life cycle of the products after use, favouring the circular economy and using many natural biocomposites. Please join us on a tour of the house and we'll show you some of the unique design features. Externally, you can see our walls are made of hempcrete, combination of lime binder and hemp hurts, which is industrial hemp fibre waste. This was selected as our alternative masonry material because it's natural, healthy, affordable, and it absorbs carbon from the air, making this product carbon negative. With several Australian manufacturers, it's fire, flood, and termite resistant, and it's a fantastic natural texture and light that Redesign love. Our timber floors and the house framing are all recycled, repurposed timber, as we found this to be an ideal option for our house design. It's sustainable and adaptable. You'll notice that the internal walls and ceiling are just your standard plasterboard, but to reduce construction waste, we tried to size all the rooms to match the standard plasterboard dimensions, multiples of 1.2 metres. Looking into the life cycle of this product, we found a company, Regip, Australia's largest plasterboard recycler, and they collect the waste with their primary purpose being to reduce landfill from construction waste. From the 3 Sydney disposal sites, they take the waste to recycle it into paper, more plasterboard, and actually it's primarily used as agricultural fertiliser, 95%. For our insulation, we're proud to be using a product you can source at your local Bunnings, Earthwool. It's super soft to handle and install. Earthwool's made of up to 80% recycled glass with cutting-edge technology, sustainable bio-based binder with no formaldehyde or bleaches. That's why it's this colour. For this material, we didn't require any innovation because we wanted to support an Australian company already in the sustainability space. In our kitchen, you can see that we used green ceramics, a product developed by Veneer Sajulala with UNSW engineers. These tiles are made from upcycled waste textiles and recycled glass. For Redesign, Health was a key feature we wanted to ensure when using plastic waste materials in our house, in particular the plumbing, as we have 100% recycled waste plastic plumbing for drinking water, stormwater and sewerage. Vinidex pipes are Australian owned and operated, and they don't change the water chemistry or corrode for that matter. They're also fully recyclable and they internally reuse all the manufactured scrap, so nothing goes to landfill. Plastic pipes and fittings are perfectly suited to a circular economy for this exact reason.
The building will be constructed upon a green concrete slab, which adds thermal mass to passively retain heat within the building, keeping it at a comfortable temperature. The aggregate for the green concrete mixture will be sourced from demolition waste, such as broken up concrete, bricks and ceramics, as well as post-consumer glass. Wastewater will also be repurposed from the textile industry, as it gives similar properties to concrete made from fresh water. The window frames of the building will be made from a composite of repurposed timber and recycled aluminium. The thermal break between the two materials will be made from recycled plastic. The glazing itself will be taken pre-demolition from existing buildings and inserted into the new frames, as it is important to have high quality glass to maximise passive solar gain. The availability of window sizes from end-of-life buildings will be irregular, so this will lead to differing window sizes between each townhouse, adding individuality to the facade. The roof will be tiled using a product similar to eco tiles. These tiles are made from recycled plastics, which replicate the look of natural clay or concrete. They can be more durable than conventionally used products, with the added benefit of being 100% recyclable at the end of product life. Each building has a solar panel array angled towards the north. This creates a microgrid for the development, which can be expanded to the neighbouring buildings with a shared energy storage system. The grid will be able to meet the energy demands more efficiently of each household when compared to an individual model. Rainwater will also be siphoned from the roof and stored in water tanks for use in the housing development.
With the goal of innovation in mind, Team Redesign has developed our very own Circularity House app for the household. When we open the app for the very first time, we'll see a screen that asks for our name. And when we enter our name, that is in there unless we reset the app. And it'll come up with a custom home screen saying Hello Redesign. So from here we can go in to check the weather. And if we want to check the weather in Corrimal today, we can see that it is a lovely day outside. Back to the home screen, we can then go into our task list. So say we never want to forget to take out our FOGO. We want to put this in our to-do list, and that's in there for our household, so we'll never forget to take out our FOGO bin again. Next, we can check out the recyclability of our household. So for our Wanton household with a standard 3-bedroom house, we see that it's got a calculation based on non-organic waste, organic waste, and total recyclability of the household. Finally, in the app is our virtual view, which will give us a virtual run-through of the household with scrolling capabilities, so we can digitally go through the house. And that is our app.
Partnership between Redesign and the Housing Trust
will make a lasting impact to climate change through the clever application of circular economy principles.
Starting with our first project collaboration,
building a home for Kira and her family.
Okay, thank you, Team Redesign. That was a powerful video. I'll invite questions from the judges, and I'm also very pleased to welcome Valerie Linton to our panelists. Valerie, I'll pin you to ask a question first, maybe, or do you want to be down the track?
No, I'm happy to ask a question. So thank you. That's a really exciting household development there, and I really like the fact that you've thought about things like standard dimensions. You talked about the plasterboard being a 1.2 meter standard dimensions. Do you think there are other building products that we could think about standard dimensions and how we could use them in the house? I know you talked about recycling windows from demolition sites, but do you think there are any other products we could extend that same philosophy to?
Yes, I definitely think there's scope for this, especially, and I'm sure the other groups have discussed as well, having consistent modular designs. With these townhouses, we're able to size all of them the same, allowing for reduction in waste. And yeah, the design of the plasterboard sheets would reduce the cut-offs and on-site material usage. Even things like 2x4s that we aim to internally reuse in our walls, all come in, typically standard sizes for houses. We think that, yeah, there could be definitely lots of opportunities for waste reduction in these areas. Even things like standardizing benchtop sizes or things that haven't traditionally been standard before, could definitely be introduced in our house. Bathroom tiles, I'm just thinking about it now. There's definitely lots of opportunities for that. Yeah, and in terms of a future, thinking more broadly for reducing waste construction, definitely think this could be standardised within the industry further than just residential, but also in a commercial setting, it would work very well.
Thank you for the question, Valerie, and welcome. For everybody to know, Valerie was the Executive Dean when we set up this originally, and encouraged us all to create the Sustainable Homes Challenge. So, and Valerie is currently in Auckland, New Zealand, as the Provost of the University of Auckland. So this is the fruition of your encouragement, Valerie, that we've got these fantastic students presenting here today.
And I was stealing into a group's time, but just to say, I'm so delighted that I was able to be on a different time zone so I could tune in to see the finale. And I've seen all of the presentations, and just a really big congratulations to all of the students. And it's so great to see the whole thing come to, to today, given the COVID and all those other things you've had to deal with. So quite apart from the amazing designs and the amazing thinking we're seeing, just very well done on just bringing it together and collaborating and seeding lots of ideas that hopefully are just the beginning of each of the student sustainability journeys. So I really want congratulations. For a long time, I thought we were never going to pull this off, but a really, really highly congratulations to the students, staff, and everybody who pulled it off. So really well done. Now I'll shut up and let the rest of the panel is actually tough.
Okay, so I've got Paul with his hand up, and then I think the two Marks look like they've got their microphones off. So Paul first, Mark Jones, and then Mark Eckerman.
Well, first, just what a lovely surprise to see you, Valerie, and thank you for tuning in. And I'd just like to echo Tim's thanks for all your support. I got, now to the team, I got very excited when I first saw the idea of recycling windows, because windows, as we probably all know, are one of the highest value bits of kit in a house, and everybody needs them. And I just wondered if you'd like to speak a little more about some of the challenges. It's a great idea to build the frames out of recycled materials. I guess that's perhaps the easier part of the question. Upcycling glass and non-standard window sizes, what discussions did you have around making that a reality?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The major issue with making the frames would be sourcing the material and getting the aluminium's easy because that can be pretty easily recycled, but getting bits of timber that, the right shape and size. In terms of like upcycling panes of glass, the biggest problem with that would be getting enough high quality panes in the right range of sizes, especially if we want to be using double glazing and stuff. You'd have to be getting 2 of each type of panel. But I think it gives a good opportunity that each of our townhouses won't be looking identical, because we've got to use what we can get, and each of the facades will have like a slightly different look, giving it a bit of like individual personality.
Yeah, that's great. I just having the vision to try and do that, I think is a great start, and you've obviously thought about some of the challenges. Thank you.
Thanks for the question and the answer, Mark Jones.
Interested in the roof line and facing that north. and perhaps a little bit confused as to what was glazing to the north and what were the solar panels. But assuming a reasonable proportion, that looked from the image as though that was glazing. Just how are you handling the heat gain from the north back into the building, the summer sun?
So perhaps not clearly shown through the model, but the intention is there to have a number of openings for ventilation in all apertures. So possibly every second pane opens up to allow for ventilation and cross ventilation to keep the cool in and the heat escaping through the roof.
Right.
Also, just to add on to that, we could use as well exterior blinds to block the heat on during summer on hot days, stuff like that.
And there's also intention in the balcony and in the green corridor for plantings that would be shading for both privacy and as awnings, natural awnings.
Again, no question for me, but a thank you. It really helps someone like me to have a model. I have a wonderful sense of what you've designed, and I credit to you. I think you used it very, very well in your presentation. Well done.
I have a question based on, I guess, the fly-throughs not showing garages or car parks or the like, and also seeing an individual on a bicycle at the front. What's the philosophy that you've brought to this this example when it comes to moving people to and from the dwelling and wherever they need to go? What was your thinking there?
So the green corridor acts as a communal space where all these shared amenities are housed. So in my poster, or in our poster rather, I did include a site plan that showed the potential of where these would be housed and also how they interact and cross over, to show how the community would interact with them and each other and the opportunities that would allow for that.
We did actually, it's not included in the model, but we did include a central garage. And again, that idea behind electric vehicles in the future, this could potentially be used as a central space for charging.
Terrific.
Well done, everyone. I think that was really great there. In terms of the shared services and amenities, they have some really amazing benefits, but also come with their challenges. Did you do any research into, I guess, the challenges that can come with shared services? And do you find many examples across the industry where these have worked well?
Well, I have a study that is from the, I'll just double check, sorry. No, I've lost it, unfortunately. But I do have a study that shows that because of the way that we are focusing on a very on the needs of the individual in society, we've somewhat been neglecting our connection to other people. So this focus on shared amenities and shared spaces is something that you'd kind of have to have a verbal contract initially with the people who are moving into these houses to say, well, if we'd like people who want to interact with their neighbors, obviously it's not a 24/7 thing. You are obviously allowed your private time and your space as an individual. But I think given everything that's been happening in the world and the sense of isolation that's sprung up and the difficulty that it's caused for a lot of people, I've seen examples in the Scandi countries that are really pushing for these shared amenities to bring people together again and create a sense of community that was more abundant a few generations ago that we've since lost.
And then further to that, shared amenities, they're becoming more and more of a thing. I mean, I'm sure you would have seen it working for Mirvac. End of trip facilities that they use in large buildings, it's becoming a standard for buildings. because it's working, it's cheaper for people to use, and that's what we're going for with these houses. And it works really well in commercial buildings with, you know, designated facilities managers. And for sites like this, that's absolutely something that we could use.
We've got time for one last question. I think everybody is questioned out. I would commend the team on your use of animations. I thought that was a very attractive part of your video, and I think all the teams have done, you know, pretty well with your videos. It's been a hectic week. It's been a hectic 5 months of this challenge, and we've come to the end. So thank you very much, Team Redesign, for your presentation and your beautiful circularity house, and taking us through all of your design principles and design decisions. What we're going to have now is the hard time for our judges. So we're going to send our judges off to a Zoom room where they have to deliberate and decide who gets the prizes. And I don't envy the judges this task. We'd like to invite all the attendees to take part in People's Choice voting. So we'll have a People's Choice prize as well, which will be decided by votes of those who are here, and we'll have a poll coming up very soon. It's also a chance for us to have maybe stretch our legs, get some refreshment. We will be back with the judges in, well, 4:25 is the time that's on the schedule. So we'll try and aim for that. We're about 2 minutes over time, so we'll see the judges back here at 4:25, and if you stick around, we're going to have the voting for the People's Choice very, very shortly. So thanks everyone, and good luck to the judges. I think everybody has noticed that the judges have come back. Welcome back, judges. Thank you so much for all that hard work you've been doing, and I don't envy you the task, but I think you've got some good news to share with our teams, and I'll just wait for Leila to get the final rankings ready, and I'll call on the judges to.
Yeah, the prize that we're calling the Welcome Prize is going to the new seed home, and that was acknowledging the migrant, the refugee client base that they chose, but also just recognising their use of the biophilic design with the greenhouse at the front, the adaptable design, converting the garage to an office and having that flexibility of space. So congratulations to the new seed home and Element O.
Thanks very much.
The second prize will be announced by Ben.
And congratulations to Team 4, Quinn Your Home, for the placemaking prize. Well done, everyone. I think the judging panel recognised your approach was further than the housing level, and you put a really good focus on, I guess, the whole community design and the placemaking. So well done, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Our next prize is the Sustainability Prize, which is awarded by BlueScope, and that will be announced by Mark Eckerman.
So the Sustainability Prize, I have great pleasure in awarding Team Redesign and their Circularity House. What stood out in your submission, I think, was a very clever use of existing building materials that have good reuse of waste credentials, use of existing materials used in different ways through the designing around existing sizes of common materials. And then you've introduced new materials and emerging materials that have even better manufacture from waste credentials. So part of getting some traction on these sorts of things is to use what's good out there now, as well as looking to develop, what can be improved in the future. So well done to Team Redesign.
Thank you. That's really exciting.
All right, our next prize is the Innovation Prize, which is awarded by Engineers Australia. Unfortunately, they couldn't have a representative with us today, but that prize will be announced by Paul Cooper.
And the winner of the Innovation Prize is Team R3 for their Reven house, which I thought was great. And the panel of judges, we all were impressed with what you've done there. I particularly liked your enthusiasm, and your presentation was terrific, really cut through for me in terms of selling the story that the world's got to change. And you put forward some really great solutions right through from the overall design of the house. Some fabulous modelling there, so renders of the design and so on, and I think Charles might have had a hand in that, and the other members of the teams as well. Some of the footage you grabbed of waste materials and their reuse and so on, it was all very powerful. And of course, the modular panel system that you came up with was a great example of engineering. And so I think you're worthy winners of the Engineers Australia Innovation Prize. Well done.
All right, thanks, Paul. And I'll get Michelle to announce the final prize, and I'll flick it up when she starts talking.
It gives me and the rest of the panel great joy to announce that Lego house is the overall winner. Congratulations, Georgia, Evelyn, Parimal and Nicole. A range of things. We felt that from the very beginning of your definition of who the home was going to be created for, your extensive consultation, the genuineness of that, your material selection, the assembly, comparisons with things like prefab versus on-site material selection and considerations. You clearly demonstrated an extensive amount of research about what materials are available where and in use in different jurisdictions around the world, and considerations again around design that really reflected use. So I was struck by things like the maximizing the size of the living space relative to the personal private space and the bedrooms, and that, you know, for this particular audience culturally and more broadly, that they were the sorts of elements that really mattered. So from a technical design perspective, material choice, audience and design overall, the attention to the brief and to addressing the criteria. Congratulations, a well-deserved win. But can I say more broadly on behalf of the Housing Trust, also as the chair of Chair New South Wales, to all of you, all of the students that participated, to all of your mentors, your lecturers in all of the different disciplines, thank you so very, very much for your contributions and to your work. We are indeed in very safe hands with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everybody.
I can see you at Unibar. Cheers.
Yeah, I wish. Let's go. It's been too long since I was last at Unibar. I actually did a stint on campus with the nursing faculty and the dementia, with the postgraduate dementia studies team. In fact, coincidentally, it's never occurred to me until you just reminded me of the bar. Funny how those things come back. I was actually working in multidiscipline postgraduate work to help people like interior designers and urban planners to actually be empathetic of our aging population and for some of the design elements that are necessary in accommodating people that end up living with dementia. So thank you for that reminder. Let's get back to the Unibar.
All right, we have one final extra prize, which is the People's Choice Prize. And I'm going to ask Tim to announce this one for us.
Okay, well, congratulations, Team B, the iDesign team, and Lego House. I know Ed Sheeran will be proud, and you've got a song that you can sing together. So the People's Choice Award is voted by the attendees. None of the panelists and none of the teams could vote, so let's reveal the People's Choice winner. It is Lego House. Well done, guys. So the world agrees with the judges. Well done, judges. And I think it shows that you've captured a really great idea with this Lego brick, the interlocking brick approach, and making people able to build their own houses, I think, is a fantastic idea. So very pleased and congratulations. I'd like to finish up by congratulating Leila Kempton because Leila has held this together through thick and thin and supported you guys. We also have to thank all our mentors who kept going with each of the mentees throughout the challenge. And I think none of this would have happened without Emma Heffernan, Tillman Bohm, Makrita, Clayton, and all the others who've contributed along the way. But you know, it's a nice way to finish the semester, and I hope you guys have a great evening celebrating, and everybody I think should have a great evening. And I think I'm very appreciative of all the students who came from across Australia to join our Wollongong students. So well done to you guys. We'll get the prizes out to everybody in due course, and I hope you all have a great sustainable career going forward.
Thank you, Tim. And it's been a huge team effort. That we have a great team of people from across UOW who have helped to organise everything and contributed towards this. So thank you to the entire team and all of the mentors, but especially thank you to the students who've given so much outside their uni time. None of this was for credit. This was purely for the love of learning and for the love of being facing a challenge, and they have certainly had to face a lot of challenges. So all credit goes to the students and the work that they've put in. And thank you guys for making this the challenge that it has been.
Tim and Leila, I'm sorry, can I just another couple of words, if I may?
Certainly.
Could I ask if the teams are okay with that, perhaps through Leila, could I ask you to send me your contact details for each of the teams? Because every one of the teams presented some really clever, nice ideas. And I would like, if you are willing, to arrange a summary presentation to some of our industry partners so that you can share your work, so that you can directly challenge, as I invited you to, our thinking and our professional work in real-time practice. I'd be very grateful if that's okay.
That's a wonderful invitation, Michelle, and I hope, yes, it opens a career path for many of our students, but it is that wonderful creativity that we get by challenging students to do something that we're not strong enough to do ourselves, or we just don't have the time and energy, that we're too busy doing our day-to-day work. I'd like to finish up by thanking all the judges, because today has been, it's a busy time of year for everybody. You've put in a lot of effort, and many of you have been involved at various stages during this Sustainable Homes Challenge. So heaps of thanks to you guys. And as Leila said, there was a whole team of people, and I don't want to miss out the team here at SBRC, and particularly Robin Dawson, who glued a lot of this together. The audience, I mean, I'm amazed that we have an audience. We still have 55 participants in our meeting at this time. And if I've got 55 people out of, I think we got up to about 70. Sorry. If I got 55 people out of 70 at the end of my lecture, the end of an hour, I'm really pleased, particularly in the online space. So I think you guys have made the event really special for all the students who presented. They know they're presenting not only their own powerful work, but they're presenting to an audience who is very appreciative. So thank you very much to the audience, and I wish you all a really nice weekend and a very happy Christmas, and hopefully we'll all open up really soon from this COVID nightmare. Take care, everyone.